What if the one person who knew the truth buried it beneath her own floorboards? Harrow County. Winter of 2008. A teenage girl called 911. Her mother was missing. Lights were still on. The front door was locked. And the tea by the couch was still warm. The last thing anyone noticed was a faint smell of gasoline rising from the basement. February 2nd. Harrow County, Illinois. The kind of night where the cold got into your bones. Snow kept falling sideways. Most people stayed in. Elise Carmichael didn't mind the weather. She worked nights as a school nurse, so storms meant fewer hallway slips and sniffles, less teenage drama in the office. She liked the quiet. That evening, around 6 o'clock, she called her daughter, Lauren, from the staff lounge, told her she'd be home by 10. Lauren had just turned 14, independent, quiet like her mother. Elise always told her, "Lock the door after me. Keep the porch light on. Don't open for anyone." At 9:30, Lauren made herself some popcorn, watched an old VHS tape in the living room. By 10:15, the wind had picked up. Tree branches tapped the windows like fingernails. Still no sign of Elise. By 10:40, the couch light was still on. The tea kettle had been used. A mug sat on the side table, but there were no keys, no coat, no car in the driveway. Lauren checked her mom's room. Everything was there: purse, wallet, phone charger. She walked through the kitchen, called out twice. No answer. Then she noticed it on a smell. Not strong, just sharp, bitter. Coming from the basement door. She didn't go down. Just backed away and called 911. I was the second officer on the scene. When we arrived, Lauren was sitting on the bottom step, arms wrapped around her knees. Not crying, just watching the door, no forced entry. No signs of struggle. Everything neat, quiet. The tea was still warm when I touched it, TV still on. Basement door closed. When I stepped down into the basement, the smell hit stronger, like gasoline, but no visible leak. Nothing spilled. We searched the house twice. Outside too. No fresh tire tracks, no prints in the snow. Her car was gone, her phone too, but no pings. No calls, nothing. By morning, Elise was listed as missing. We called the ex-husband first. Don Carmichael, lived one town over. Bitter divorce. Claimed he hadn't spoken to her in weeks. Then co-workers. All said the same. Elise was kind, careful. The kind who kept extra inhalers in her desk for kids too embarrassed to ask. No enemies, no drama. Except one name came up twice. Russell Baines. A contractor. Worked on her basement the month before. He was polite, one said. But Elise didn't like him. Something about the way he asked questions. Personal stuff. We called him in. He said they barely spoke. Claimed he'd finished the job and never looked back. He had an alibi. Half shaky, but nothing to hold him. And we searched his van. Found nothing. Without a body, without proof. There was no case. For months, we followed leads that went nowhere. We interviewed a former patient's father who'd gotten aggressive with Elise once. Clean. We dug into phone records. Blank neighbors saw nothing. Cameras had snow glare. Then came silence. Years of it. The file gathered dust. People moved on. But I didn't. Some cases don't leave you. This one felt unfinished. Like it was hiding something simple. Right in front of us. I reopened it every winter, just to feel the cold again. Then, 15 years later, September 23rd, Joliet, Illinois. A man walked into the precinct with a cardboard box. Said he'd bought a storage unit at auction. Said the box gave him chills. Said he only opened it because of what was written on top. If anything happens to me, start here. Inside were 3 things: a stack of letters, torn pages from a journal, and at the very bottom, an unlabeled miniDV tape. We had to dig out an old camcorder just to play it. Grainy footage, shaky hands, static in the sound. But the image was clear enough. Elise Carmichael, standing in her own basement, whispering, scared. I know what you did. I'm not covering anymore. We played the tape in a dark conference room. No timestamp, no date, just grainy video, handheld, low light, shaky. Elise was alone, standing near the basement shelves, one hand on her stomach. Her voice was hushed, afraid. If you're watching this, I'm probably gone. I wish I could have said more. She took a deep breath. He comes back sometimes. Says he wants to finish repairs. But I didn't ask him to. She glanced off camera, then back. There's something in the wall. He thought I didn't see, but I did. The camera panned for a moment. A brick wall, half sealed, no clear markings, just old mortar, slightly discolored near the edge. Then Elise whispered one last thing. Check behind the shelf. And whatever you do, don't trust Russell. Then, the screen went black. It had been 15 years since we last stepped into that house. It had changed owners twice. Now a retired couple lived there. They agreed to let us back in. Same layout, same shelf in the basement. When we pulled it aside, the smell of damp wood hit first. Behind it, the same wall from the tape. We brought in ground-penetrating radar. Within hours, we found it. A shallow, hollow inside the bricks. Something had been placed there. Removed since. We scraped the mortar, checked for chemical residue, and we found traces, not just gasoline, accelerant compounds, industrial. We also found a nail, just one, half burned, half blackened, embedded deep in the corner of the wall. Why would you burn the wall, but not tear it down? Someone had staged something here and cleaned it up fast. We pulled building permits from late 2007 through early 2008. One contractor's name kept surfacing, Russell Baines. But this time, something new showed up. A work order Elise never signed. It was dated 3 weeks before she vanished. Russell had submitted plans for basement thermal insulation and wall sealant. There was no record of it being finished, no payment on file, just a permit. And then silence. We looked closer. Turns out Russell wasn't licensed at the time. His credentials had expired. That permit? Faked. His signature didn't match the records. But here's where it got strange. A second contractor name appeared on the file as a cosigner, Gavin T. Weller. Never interviewed, never questioned. No one had even noticed the signature. Gavin Weller wasn't in our old case files. He wasn't listed in Elise's contacts. He'd never been arrested. Never pulled into the investigation, but he'd been there, on that form. And when we searched his name, something clicked. He died in 2011, single car crash outside Joliet. No foul play. But here's the thing. Gavin Weller used to be a contractor. Too. He and Russell ran a small side business for about 2 years. Went under quietly. And his old house, 10 minutes from Elise's. We reached out to his sister. She hadn't spoken about Gavin in years, but when we showed her a photo of Elise, she went pale. I remember her. She said, Gavin mentioned a nurse once, said she got too nosy. That was enough to pull every permit, tax file, and work order linked to both men between 2006 and 2008. What we found was a pattern. 3 separate work permits, 3 different homes, each for basement renovations or subfloor heating, each signed by Russell Baines, each with Gavin Weller listed as a secondary contractor, each client, a woman living alone. All 3 homes had late-night 911 calls. All 3 involved missing persons cases. The first one was ruled a runaway. The second, suspected domestic dispute. And Elise, cold case. We drove to the other 2 homes. Only one of them still had the same basement layout. That's where we found it. Another wall, discolored, recently painted over. We brought in the same radar. Same result, hollow cavity. This time, it hadn't been cleaned out. The second house was tucked in a quiet suburb outside Aurora. New owners had no idea what was sealed beneath their feet. Once we got a search warrant, our forensics team went in. We removed the drywall first. Then the cement board behind it. Finally, we hit the old brick face, and uneven, sloppy mortar across the center. Same signature as Elise's home. This time the cavity hadn't been emptied. Inside was a single metal toolbox. Rusted. Locked. We cracked. It opened at the station. What we found inside made the room fall silent. A small necklace. Gold, shaped like a leaf. A driver's license, faded but legible. Name, Hannah Corrin. And at the bottom, a photo. Water damaged but clear enough. 3 people, Russell Baines, Gavin Weller, and a third man, clean-shaven, dark-collared shirt, half smile, unfamiliar. But behind them, the same brick wall. 2 days later, we had the box from Elise's house tested for trace elements. Inside the false bottom, now wedged under the tape reel's groin, was a folded paper, a letter, addressed not to police, but to her younger sister, Marie. It was written in rushed, uneven handwriting. Marie, I didn't know who else to trust. If something happens to me, it's because I found out what Russell did. He's not who he says. I think he hurt other women. I think he made them disappear. I saw someone else in the house one night. I don't know his name. But he was with Russell. He had a limp, looked nervous. I'm so sorry. Please don't let them get away with this. The letter had never been mailed. Never even sealed. Marie confirmed the handwriting. Said she'd never seen it before. We ran the description of the man with the limp through old records tied to Russell and Gavin, and something popped. In 2005, Russell was sued after a construction accident. A support beam fell during a job. The injured party? Declan Moore. Name hadn't come up once in our original files. Moore was a drywall installer, worked small contractor gigs, mostly cash. He'd never had a criminal record, never filed taxes after 2006. We tracked him down through public medical records, a knee injury. He'd been living in Dixon, Illinois, under the radar for over a decade. We found him living alone in a mobile home on the outskirts of town. When we knocked, he didn't answer. We came back with a warrant. Inside, the place was cluttered. Dusty shelves, old tools, no photographs. But in the back room, we found a locked case. Inside, more photos. Photos of construction sites, of Russell and Gavin, of basements. One, in particular, showed Elise. Not smiling, not posing, just exiting her house, mid-step, taken from a distance, through trees. We brought Moore in for questioning. He didn't deny knowing Russell, didn't deny working on Elise's house, but he claimed he just delivered supplies, said Gavin and Russell ran the show. They had this system, he said. Russell got close. Gavin scoped the house. I just helped lift. We asked why he had the photo of Elise. He said Russell gave it to him. He liked to know their routines. Moore muttered. Said it helped him plan the job. When pressed about the toolbox, in the second house, Moore's hands trembled. I told him it was going too far, told him to stop, but he said she figured it out, said he had no choice. We asked who else knew. His eyes dropped. Nobody. Except maybe the guy who signed off the permits. County inspector. Name was Emerson. That name rang a bell. We pulled county permit records, and there it was. Inspector Alan Emerson, who'd approved all 3 remodel jobs, including Elise's. He'd retired in 2010, moved to Arizona, but his name was on every document tied to Russell and Gavin's work permits. When we reached him, he sounded nervous, claimed he didn't remember specific jobs from back then, but when we brought up Elise's name, there was a pause. Then I told Russell not to file that one. Told him it wasn't going to pass inspection. He admitted they paid him off in small cash payments, to look the other way. Said he never knew what they were really doing, but he did remember something specific. Russell said it wasn't about the work. Said the basement was just a front. I thought he meant fraud, not. He stopped. We had enough for a warrant. 3 separate witness links, 2 physical evidence sites, a cold trail heating fast. Russell Baines hadn't been seen in Joliet for over a decade, but he wasn't missing. He'd reinvented himself. New name, Brian Keller. New job, ran a handyman business out of Rockford, Illinois. No online presence. No paper trail. But one mistake, a parking ticket issued outside a strip mall 2 weeks earlier. We found his van, then found him, walking out of a grocery store, pushing a cart like any normal man. He froze when he saw the badge. Russell Baines. I said, "We need you to come with us." He didn't run, didn't speak, just nodded. He knew. Russell didn't say a word for the first 3 hours, just sat with his arms crossed, staring at the wall. Then we played the audio from Elise's hidden box, the tape where she described his behavior, her fear, her suspicions. His face twitched. Then his eyes went red. "You think you know what happened," he muttered. "You have no idea." We showed him the photo, the one of him, Gavin, and Declan standing by the basement wall. He looked at it for a long time, then said, "She wasn't supposed to die." That was the first time he admitted she was dead. Russell claimed Elise confronted him in late 2008, said she'd found a hidden camera in the basement. One Gavin had placed. She threatened to go to the police. "I told her I'd make it right," he said. "I was going to disappear. Start over." But Gavin didn't trust her. He pushed Russell to act. Said if Elise talked, they'd both go down. "I built the wall," Russell confessed. "Gavin, he was the one who..." He stopped. "He did it while I was upstairs. When I came down, it was already over. We asked where Gavin was now. Russell just shook his head. Gone. Mexico, maybe. Or dead." We stopped talking after Elise. Back at the precinct, we pulled Russell's original case files. There, in a forgotten evidence locker, was a brown envelope marked Item 127, audio tape, unlabeled. Nobody had ever transcribed it. We ran it through our updated equipment. The tape crackled for a full minute, then came Russell's voice, recorded without his knowledge, nobody's. "Gonna find her, man. We poured 2 inches of cement, she's not going anywhere." Then Gavin's voice, "You sure she didn't tell anyone?" She was scared. But no, she didn't tell. Just left that stupid letter for her sister. Then it's done. We're ghosts. The room went silent after that. 15 years, and one tape no one ever bothered to listen to. Russell was charged with first-degree murder, unlawful concealment of a body, and obstruction of justice. Declan Moore was charged as an accessory and agreed to testify. In exchange, he got 12 years. 5 served. Alan Emerson, the retired inspector, was fined and placed under federal investigation for obstruction. As for Gavin Weller, we sent out a bolo. Interpol got involved. But, to this day, he's never been found. Elise's remains were recovered from the foundation of the house. Forensics confirmed her identity. Her sister, Marie, stood at the trial, tears in her eyes. Letter in hand. Elise's small box, the one with the tapes, photos, and the folded letter, was entered as Exhibit A. We kept it in our case archive, inside a glass locker, and every time a young detective walks past it, we tell them the same thing. This box did more than we ever did. She solved her own case. It reminded us that no detail is too small, no clue is too old, and no story ever really ends until the truth is found. The courtroom was packed. Local news ran daily segments. Old classmates of Elise's filled the gallery. After 15 years of silence, the town of Joliet was finally hearing the truth. Russell sat still as evidence was laid out. Photos of the house, the recordings, statements from Declan, and Elise's own words from that hidden tape. Her voice, clear and afraid, filled the courtroom. You could hear a pin drop when the jury listened. On the 3rd day, Russell's lawyer entered a plea, guilty on all counts. There would be no jury deliberation, no appeals, just a sentence. The judge called it one of the most deliberate acts of concealment he'd ever seen. "You didn't just kill Elise Walsh," he said. "You buried the truth for 15 years and let her family suffer without answers." Russell Baines was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Declan Moore's cooperation reduced his charge. He walked free in 2024 under strict parole. The court issued a standing warrant for Gavin Weller. Interpol maintained an active search. Russell never offered an apology, but he never denied a single fact after his arrest. Sometimes silence is all the admission you need. On a cloudy Saturday morning, Elise Walsh was finally laid to rest. A proper service, a real headstone, and answers to the questions her family had carried for half their lives. Her sister, Marie, delivered a eulogy that moved every officer standing nearby. "She tried to protect herself the only way she knew how," Marie said, holding the tape box in her hands. "She left us the truth. We just weren't ready to hear it." Dozens of friends, neighbors, and old classmates came. Some hadn't seen her since high school. Others had never stopped wondering. Now they knew. After the trial, we reopened every cold case Elise ever worked on as a student journalist. 3 of them led to new evidence. One led to a reopened homicide that resulted in another arrest. Elise had been digging into a lot of dangerous things. Maybe that's why she made the box. Maybe she always sensed the risk. Her instincts were sharper than most of ours. That realization haunted me more than anything. Not that we didn't find her, but that she'd been trying to help people even in her final days. She was the kind of person you don't forget. We moved her evidence box to a different room after the trial, the department's new cold case unit. Inside the glass, it sits labeled, Case 09197, Elise Walsh, solved recovered, March 2023, filed May 2023, solved by contents of victim's personal archive. It became more than just evidence. It became a symbol. Rookie detectives studied it during onboarding. Veterans used it to teach one thing: trust your gut. Follow your facts and listen, always listen. Because sometimes the victim is the loudest voice in the room. You just have to be willing to hear her. I still drive past the old house on Lincoln Avenue sometimes. The new owners turned the basement into a guest room. No one talks about what was under the floor anymore, but I remember, and I remember Elise. Not for the way she died, but for the way she fought to be heard, even after her voice was gone. One small box, a tape recorder, a folded letter. That's all it took. 15 years of silence, shattered by the sound of her own words. If you're hearing this, something happened to me. She was right. And because of her, we finally knew.
What are your thoughts on this case? Let us know in the comments. Like the video and share it with your friends. Subscribe to our channel for daily crime cases we uncover. Turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Click here to watch the next video as we uncover another thrilling crime case.